Kishoranandana Brajajanaranjana Yamuna Chiravana Yamuna Chiravana Chahari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Jai Shri Radha Madhava ki Jai, Shri Prabhupada ki Jai, Gaura Premanandi. Thank you. Hare Krishna. So it's a pleasure to be here with everyone in Naperville. Especially last time I was here, there was, well, this time there's a pile of dirt out here. Last time I was here, the pile of dirt was in the front. But underneath what was once the pile of dirt is now the soon-to-come parking lot. And once the parking lot is finished, then they moved the dirt from there, and then soon-to-be completed temple. Though I think the parking lot's going to come up a little quicker than the temple. It's going to take a little more patience, but it's nice to see the progress. And it's all due to the credit of all of you who are coming here and offering your service and your prayers and your devotion to Krishna, and asking him to help us build a wonderful community here. And of course, building in one sense is not so important. The stone and the brick and the mortar is not really important, but it's the temple is actually a place of community. Like in the Christian traditions, they build a church, but if you talk to them, they say the church isn't a building, it's the community. So in the same way, what we're really building here is Sangha, and that takes everyone's effort to help that Sangha manifest. And when we endeavor in that way, then Krishna gives us nice space for that. So thank you all very much for all you're doing, and keep your eyes and ears posted for all the progress reports. So, and of course Janmashtami is coming up. I think there's some very special programs. I think we're planning a bigger Janmashtami program than in the past, from what I understand. And then soon after that, there's a program. Indra Swami is coming with his whole international troupe of performers. So a lot of good things are happening. So all good news. So I was going to read a little bit from the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 6, which is entitled Conversation Between Narada and Vyasadeva. By the way, sometimes I know, like those of you that, a few of you were kind of honored for being here for the first time. I just wanted to mention, sometimes it's a little shocking. You go someplace and they stand up and they go, okay, everybody yell Haribol. Haribol basically means thanks for coming, we're glad you're here. In case you had some doubt, you know, like what does this Haribol mean? Like, she's a new one, everybody, like, go outside and paint, you know, use soap and paint, thanks for coming on her car or something like that. That's not what it means. It means thanks for coming, we're glad you're here. In the ordinary sense. In the other sense, it has some spiritual meaning, chant God's names, but it's a greeting of welcome. So, I was in Richmond, Virginia about 2 weeks ago. There were some young students, Western students, and they said, thanks for coming, everybody, chant Haribol 3 times. And I could see on their face they were completely bewildered. What does this mean, chant Haribol 3 times? So I felt down there, and here sometimes it needs a translation. So, reading from the story of Narada Muni. Narada, a great sage in the ancient Vedic and Vaishnava traditions. So here, he's explaining to his disciple Vyasadeva, also a very famous saint who's attributed with compiling the Bhagavatam and all of the Vedic literatures. So I won't get into the story of Vyasadeva, there's not enough time, But Narada, in his instruction of Vyasa, he's telling him his own history. And it's a very inspiring and enlightening one. And I just read as a series of verses, so if you just bear with me. I'll read the first verse Sanskrit, but then the rest just the English. Then we'll read one of Prabhupada's purports or commentaries to one verse, and then I'll discuss a little more, and hopefully I'll try to leave some time for discussion. So, I'll do an invocation since it's Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So you can just listen now. Narada uvacha bhikshubir vipravasite vijnana deshtribir mama vartamano vyasajyadye tata etad akaraksham. Sri Narada said, the great sages who had imparted scientific knowledge of transcendence to me departed for other places, and I had to pass my life in this way. So when he was a young boy, he had some saintly persons come and stayed in his vicinity, and he was taught by them and inspired by their presence. But then, he explains, I was the only son of my mother, who was not only a simple woman, but a maidservant as well. Since I was her only offspring, she had no other alternative for protection. She bound me with the tie of affection. She wanted to look after my maintenance properly, but because she was not independent, she was not able to do anything for me. The world is under the full control of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, everyone is like a wooden doll in the hands of a puppet master. When I was a mere child of 5 years, I lived in a Brahmana school. I was dependent on my mother's affection and had no experience of different lands. Once upon a time, my poor mother, when going out one night to milk a cow, was bitten on the leg by a serpent, influenced by supreme time. I took this as the special mercy of the Lord, who always desires benediction for his devotees, and so thinking, I started for the north. He's 5 years old. Mother just died, and he's thinking, ultimately God must have some plan here. After my departure, I passed through many flourishing metropolises, towns, villages, animal farms, mines, agricultural lands, valleys, flower gardens, nursery gardens, and natural forests. I passed through hills and mountains full of reservoirs. I then passed through many forests of rushes, bamboo, reeds, sharp grass, weeds, and caves, which were very difficult to go through alone. I visited dark, deep, and dangerously fearful forests, which were the play yards of snakes, owls, and jackals. Thus traveling, I felt tired both bodily and mentally, and I was both thirsty and hungry. So I took a bath in a river lake and also drank water. By contacting water, I got relief from my exhaustion. After that, under the shadow of a banyan tree in an uninhabited forest, I began to meditate upon the supersoul situated within, using my intelligence as I had learned from liberated souls. As soon as I began to meditate upon the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead, with my mind transformed in transcendental love, tears rolled down my eyes, and without delay the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, appeared on the lotus of my heart. O Vyasadeva, at that time, being exceedingly overpowered by feelings of happiness, every part of my body became separately enlivened. Being absorbed in an ocean of ecstasy, I could not see both myself and the Lord. 2 lines of this purport. Prabhupada says, spiritual feelings of happiness and intense ecstasies have no mundane comparison. Therefore, it is very difficult to give expression to such feelings. We can just have a glimpse of such ecstasy in the words of Sri Narada Muni. Continue with the translation. The transcendental form of the Lord, as it is, satisfies the mind's desire, and at once erases all mental incongruities. Upon losing that form, I suddenly got up, being perturbed, as is usual when one loses that which is desirable. I desired to see again that transcendental form of the Lord, but despite my attempts to concentrate upon the heart with eagerness to view the form again, I could not see him anymore, and thus dissatisfied. I regret that during this lifetime you will not be able to see me anymore. Though and you have only once seen my person, and this is just to increase your desire for me, because the more you hanker for me, the more you will be free from all material desires. Can you ask her? By service of the absolute truth, even for a few days, after giving up the present, not be vacant of desires. He is not a dead stone. He must be working, thinking, feeling, and willing. But when he thinks, feels, and wills materially, he becomes entangled. And conversely, when he thinks, feels, and wills for the service of the Lord, he becomes gradually freed from all entanglement. The more a person is engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, the more he acquires a hankering for it. That is the transcendental nature of godly service. Material service has satiation, whereas spiritual service of the Lord has neither satiation nor end. One can go on increasing his hankerings for the loving transcendental service of the Lord, and yet he will not find satiation or end. By intense service of the Lord, one can experience the presence of the Lord transcendentally. Therefore, seeing the Lord means being engaged in his service, because his service and his person are identical. The sincere devotee should go on with sincere service of the Lord. The Lord will give proper direction as to how and where it has to be done. There was no material desire in Narada, and yet, just to increase his intense desire for the Lord, he was so advised. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Padashtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Picharine Nirvasesha Shunyavani Pashtatari Satarane. So this is a very beautiful story about Narada Muni. Of course, it's condensed. You know, he starts walking and then he's meditating. There's obviously some long period of time there. He's visiting all these different places. But he's telling this story to his disciple Vyasadeva, and through Vyasadeva to be recorded in the Sanskrit language and passed down for thousands of years, also for our benefit. He's sharing this story. And all of us, I'm just speaking with a devotee today, we're talking about how we all need mentors. We all need examples. I think we see in modern culture people, they have mentors of football stars or movie actresses or musicians or like that, or big research scientists, or different people who are inspired, sometimes political leaders. So we look to people to give examples, and here Narada Muni, he's telling this story so that we also have the opportunity to learn from him and let him be an example for us. And his path's a difficult one. And again, it's very condensed, but we can get from just one verse the trauma and the difficulty of a 5-year-old child losing his mother. He had no father, as described here, and he loses his mother. And yet, because he had the spiritual inspiration given by, in the very first verse it mentioned, and there was verses previous to that we didn't take time to read, how he'd had the association of these spiritually advanced persons, these knowledgeable sages, Bhagavatas they're described, who had given him instruction and some faith that actually there's a higher reality than that what we just perceive in our ordinary day-to-day vision. When ordinary vision is we come into the world, we get some education, our family takes care of us for a few years, we get educated, we get a job, we buy a house, we get married, we have kids, we grow old, and then we either get buried out back or these days you can get cremated, it's cheaper. And maybe people remember you for a generation or two. Or if they put your name on a cemetery stone, it lasts a little bit longer, but then eventually the stones get knocked down too. So, and then it's done, it's finished. So, Narada had knowledge that there was more to it than that. So in the midst of this very painful situation of losing his mother, he saw that as an impetus to look for God. And again, he's a special example. We can't imitate that, but we can learn from his example. So he went to the forest. He had this instruction that you should try to seek God. He can help you in your difficulties, that the goal of life is to connect with him. And he was so determined that he went and he sat in the forest and sat down and began to meditate. And as is explained here, through his meditation, not ordinary meditation, very deep and profound, through that meditation he actually saw Paramatma. He saw Krishna in his heart. It's described that he manifested, he fully saw God. Many of the world's traditions, it talks about Paramatma or the Lord in the heart. It's very common teaching in many of the world's traditions. Because of his determination and his desire, he saw God. But then his meditation broke, and it's described he was really upset because he's describes a level of ecstasy. Prabhupada in his purport says you can't even describe the level of happiness. We don't have words to describe that. And that was his vision, and then it was taken away. It's kind of like, if you went to school one day and they said, we looked at your grades and you're doing so well, we decided you can skip 11th grade, go right to 12th. And you go, wow, really? Yeah, we're going to do a special honor in the auditorium just for you. Really? And you go, yeah, your name is such and such, right? You go, no, my name is this. Oh, sorry, it's not you. Thank you, Prabhu. So you might be a little disappointed. Hare Krishna. You might be a little disappointed. Or maybe you open ordinary examples, but you open a check in the mail maybe in May or something like that. You open an envelope from the IRS and you think, oh, wow, this is my refund. And then you read the letter that says, you owe us an extra $2,500. Please send it in. It's a little disappointing. So even something as simple as that's disappointing. Imagine he's seen God and then he disappears. And then he's feeling so much separation that he sits down again and he tries to meditate thinking, I know how to do this. You just meditate and he comes. And he sits and he meditates again and nothing happens. But then he hears the voice. Krishna speaks to him and says, actually, this nice verse, he says, actually, you're not qualified to see me. You're not pure heart enough. I'm the supreme pure. When you're pure, you can see me, but you're not pure enough. But out of compassion for you, I appeared. I allowed you to see me just to inspire you. And then he says, I regret that you won't be able to see me again in this lifetime. You won't be able to see me. But if you continue on the path of bhakti, now inspired by this vision, I guarantee you'll come to me at the end. And then he never heard him again. And then, as we know, the history of the life of Narada Muni, he went on to become one of the universal great saints. I mean, he's kind of throughout the whole tradition. You watch any Bollywood movie about any Vedic history, Narada always shows up. They don't usually give such a glamorous presentation of him for some reason. I don't know why. But anyway, we know in the tradition he's a greatly knowledgeable, wonderful personality. So it's a very deep and profound history, and one that there's some important lessons for us. I'd just like to highlight one or two. And the first is that as Narada is revealing in his own story, just like if you have a child, and if sometimes your child, a younger brother or sister, or a less mature friend, sometimes you share your own story with them to help encourage them and give them the strength and some wisdom. Maybe they don't have as much experience as you do. So you share that with them. Your student and somebody, and your younger brother's like, oh my gosh, that teacher is really mean. And you say, well, actually it's okay. I had the same teacher. They start out tough, but they're actually quite nice. Don't worry. It's like, calm down, keep going. sharing that wisdom. Our parents are always trying to share that with their friends. So here Narada is sharing the same story with us. Not that he's boasting. See how great I am. I sat down and meditated and God appeared to me. That's not his purpose at all. But he's telling this as he's chalking out the path. Right? He's laying out the path. He's putting signposts on the road for us, encouraging us in the same way. So some of the lessons he's giving us is that, a couple things to mention from here, is first, through his own realization, he's explaining to us that actually Krishna, as he's called in our Vaishnava tradition, or God, or the Supreme Lord, or Ram, or Allah, or different names of God in different languages, that the Supreme is the original, the divinity, the Supreme Divinity, first and foremost is a person. It's a personality, and that personality actually cares for us. It's our friend. Krishna says in Gita, Bhoktanam Jakatapasam Sarva Loka Maheshwaram Surinam Sarvabhutanam Gyatvam Shantim Richati. He explains, he says, I'm actually the supreme friend of all living entities. We all have some friends in our life, people that are friendly to us. We know how important it is to have a friend in our life. And Krishna's explaining he's actually our best friend. So Narada is showing how that's true by explaining that I actually wasn't really qualified to see God. It's kind of like if you wanted to go see the mayor of Naperville. It's not that prestigious of a position, but it's an important one. Chances are you couldn't just walk in and knock on the door and, have his or her darshan or audience. You'd probably have to call ahead of time and get through a couple personal secretaries, and even then they say, well, what exactly is this about? Why do you want to speak with them, etc. What to speak of, say, the governor of Illinois, a little tougher. What to speak if you want to speak with the Secretary of Energy or the Secretary of Defense. You got to go through a lot of hurdles there. What to speak if you want to speak to the president. What to speak of God. It's like a couple notches up above even the President of the United States. A couple notches. So he wasn't qualified, but he didn't have all the requirements, just like he had requirements to speak to the mayor or the governor or whatever. But still, because Krishna is showing, because he's his friend, he wanted to encourage him. So he appeared in his heart, he revealed himself to him, showing that I'm giving you inspiration, you're doing good, keep it up, don't stop. And Prabhupada elsewhere describes in other purports that for every one step we take on the spiritual path, we may not see it automatically, but this is the instruction and the realization of our previous acharyas, our saintly persons before us. With every one step we take, Krishna takes 10 towards us. Now you think about it, it's pretty rare to have a relationship, other than maybe your mother or your father, that you take one step and they take 10 steps towards you. It's pretty unusual. But it's explained that the example is given. That's the nature of Krishna, and we can see that here with Narada. So one, that he is actually our friend, and he's helping us and wants to help us. Of course, I say he and she, Krishna, Radharani is both there. Feminine aspect of the Godhead, Radha is described as being even more compassionate than Krishna. So Radha and Krishna, their mercy is both there. So that's one lesson. And then the second lesson he gives us is the need to be determined. He was 5 years old, so many obstacles. He has no father. His mother died. He's going through forests and jungles and jackals and tigers and so many different dangers. But he's somehow not letting that dissuade him from the goal. And I think there's some parallels to us as people with some either little curiosity about spiritual life, or maybe we've made some commitment to a spiritual practice, or we're somehow inquisitive and just trying to see, is there something of any depth here, that we make some little endeavor And Krishna is saying, if you make a little endeavor, I'll help you. And at the same time, we also ourselves have to be a little determined. And I think this parallel is especially significant because we all get little glimpses of inspiration of something better and something higher. And one thing that confirms this is we live in an educated society or a highly educated people. It's not that we only know Naperville or we only know, say, whatever American culture or Indian culture. We're educated about what's going on historically around the world. There's so many great teachers and saintly persons from so many traditions in so many languages over centuries and thousands of years who had at least the same foundational message, which is there's a higher purpose in human form of life. It's not just meant to pursue the same thing that the animals are. Like I live in a downstairs flat, and we have like a big porch over us. So try as I did to put some netting up to close every possible avenue for the birds to get into the covered porch, they figured it out. And so we thought, okay, well, we don't want to disturb them. And, once the eggs are there, if you close it off, you don't know if the birds are inside, outside, whatever. So we waited and waited and waited, and finally, okay, the family was there, and cheep. And then finally the birds, they get out of the nest, and they fly away, and everything's fine. And I think, okay, now I got to get around to, filling the holes again pretty soon so it doesn't happen next year. And little did I realize that birds are now on the same cycle. So that was the birth cycle for that species, but some other species took a nest in another part. So now I had to wait for them to have their babies. So now, hopefully when I go home, there's no more cheep, and I can patch it up so I don't have... so the cheep is lovely, and then, the fact that the moms come and feed the babies is very nice. What happens after everybody gets fed on the patio is not so nice. So for that reason, I want to encourage them to find another home. But you see through that, they're building nests, and we're building subdivisions, right? They're feeding worms, and we're, trying to make money to go to the grocery store, isn't it? They're trying to teach their little babies, okay, get out of the, however they communicate to them in their bird language, get out of the nest, come on. In fact, I learned something you probably all know, I didn't know so well, but that expression, thrown out of the nest, you've heard that before? You're talking about kids being thrown out of the nest. In bird families, at least some, they literally throw them out of the nest. So I came out one morning and there was like, a baby bird looking not very pretty. They're not, the feathers aren't there, just like on the ground. And I thought, oh my gosh, he's finished. He's looks like he broke something when he fell. But no, the mom just said, okay, out of here. High school's done, 4 years of college, you're on your own. So the mom pushed him out of the nest, or her, didn't know. And, after a few hours, they kind of somehow get their strength, and then that's how they learn to fly. So, mom's pushing the bird out of the nest, and we're putting kids through college, right? So the animals are doing similar things that we are. They're worried about, you see that some animals, they're very worried about, oh my gosh, is their fox going to come? They're worried about defending themselves from the fox or from the bigger birds or the hawks or this or that. And we're talking about defense budgets, right? And should it be 3.2% or 2.6%? And how come those guys don't pay more? And why are we paying for you? You should pay for us. And, it's basically cheap, here comes the fox. It's the same consciousness, a little more sophisticated. And the Acharyas explain it's eating. Animals eat, we eat. Sleeping, they eat, we sleep. Mating, we reproduce, have offspring. And defense, they're doing the same thing. And if we only do the same things in a little more sophisticated way, we may think we're very sophisticated, but basically, and the Acharyas speak kind of bluntly on this, is they basically sophisticated animals. But human life begins with this inquiry. Who am I? Where did I come from? Is there God? Is there purpose for life? So, I commend all of you because somehow on a Sunday afternoon, we're taking time out of our busy schedules to say, well, let me visit the temple, let me go, and maybe some of us first time, let me go and see what this is all about and what they're doing, and is there any benefit to this? Or maybe even as Prabhupada's case, his friend brought him. as we know that history. But once taking a small step, we get a little taste. We get some little inspiration. And that's what Narada had. He had a big inspiration, but he had some bigger challenges than most of us have too. But he got some inspiration, and based on that inspiration, he was very determined. And because of his determination, he didn't have the purity to have Krishna appear again. Krishna appeared once, causes, like we say, causes mercy. And then they thought, okay, I can do this. I'm a tough 5-year-old. I can get him back here. And that didn't work. But because he was determined, Krishna spoke to him and said, okay, I'm going to help you. You're not really qualified yet, but that's okay. I just want to help you. So in a similar way, as spiritual aspirants, we also understand, we're not, the Shastra reveals, we're not qualified to see God. And that actually we can. It's actually our birthright. It's actually who we are eternally, is eternal associates of God. God has a spiritual form, we have a spiritual form. God is eternal, we're eternal. God is full of bliss, happiness, we're full of bliss and happiness, but we've forgotten it. And because we've forgotten it, like the lenses on our glasses are covered, we can't see things properly. Therefore, it's explained we are currently living in Maya, or illusion. We don't see things the way they are. But human life is meant to overcome that. But to do that, we have to be a little determined on a spiritual path. And Prabhu gives examples, says, whatever you do in life, you have to be determined. If you're going to take chemistry class, you have to be kind of determined. You got to go to the lectures, you got to go to the lab, you got to do the paperwork. If you're going to get a raise at work, and you want to get the promotion, you have to be determined. If you're going to make your mortgage payments, you have to be determined. You can't just write the bank, I was kind of thinking maybe the next 6 or 7 months, we just let this payment go, right? The banks, they're going to write you back. They're going to appreciate the correspondence, but they're not going to welcome your proposal, right? You're going to get another letter, computer generated, that says, Dear Sir, Dear Madam, we haven't heard from you recently, and that's okay. You got 3 more months, and we're going to send somebody with a nice bright star on their shirt, and they're going to come and remind you who owns this house, right? Or if it's a car payment, sometimes they're even more direct, right? You just say, well, I don't feel like making a car payment for a while. And I'm sure nobody's done this here, but it happens. You don't make a car payment for a few months, and then you get up one morning to go to work, and you're taking the bus because the car's not there anymore, right? They just took it back because you haven't made the payments, because we haven't been determined. So we have to be determined to make some progress in spiritual life. So that's one of the messages, but along with that is that Krishna is helping us at every step. And in his purport in Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada tells us this wonderful story of the sparrow bird, another bird story, who laid her eggs on the shore of the ocean, and the ocean waves came and took away the eggs. Instruction is there for us. And she was very upset, so she spoke to the ocean. She said, you should bring me my eggs back. But the ocean's thinking, who's this little bird? I'm not going to waste my time with you. You're too insignificant. But the bird said, if you don't bring my eggs back, I'm going to dry you out. And nothing. So the bird started pecking the water out of the ocean. I mean, what an impossible idea. It's foolish, actually. It's impossible. But Prabhupada explains that soon Garuda, Vishnu's bird carrier, mystical, very powerful personality, heard and had compassion, Prabhupada says, on his sister bird, and came and said to the ocean, hey, excuse me, buddy, she's with me. I'd appreciate if you bring the eggs back now. And the eggs came back by the grace of Garuda. So in a similar way, we may have, different obstacles, difficulties, distractions, but if we maintain some determination, some commitment, then Krishna will help. And if we have some little glimpse of spirituality, I can remember first going to the Hare Krishna temple. I lived in Ann Arbor, Michigan. I can remember going and just having some little experience of this is so much better than anything else I've ever done on a Sunday afternoon. There's definitely something different here. And even tasting the prasad. I never had challah before. I was not raised in a culture that eats challah, and I thought, wow, this is not ordinary. And the very first time before I moved into the temple, I remember I visited, and I was sitting down with some young brahmacharis, and I said, would you like some lunch? I said, yeah, and he sat down to eat with me, and he said, this food is not ordinary food, this is spiritual food. Just eating this food, you become purified in heart. I thought, wow, this is not an ordinary place. I mean, you go to like, fast food place or something, they'll tell you like, our food's fast, nobody claims it's spiritually purifying. Nobody, right? And then I remember I went in to wash my hands in the men's room, and there was a young devotee there wearing a gamsha. A lot of you from India know what a gamsha is. I didn't know what a gamsha was. It's just an interesting thing for a guy doing janitorial work to be wearing in the bathroom. And I washed my hands, and he's scrubbing the floor in his hands and his knees, and he said hi to me, and he said, somehow, I don't know how we got to this point, I've forgotten the in-between sentences, but he said, just by cleaning the floor in the temple, you make spiritual advancement. And I was thinking, I've never been to a place like this before. I mean, I've had a couple jobs where I had to clean the floor, but I never had any kind of sense that I was making spiritual advancement cleaning the floor. So I just got this sense, this is a different perspective on life, and I like it. I like their enthusiasm. I like the taste that they're experiencing, and I want to have a similar experience. So we've all had something like that. Sometimes the prasadam, we get some insight. Sometimes seeing the deities, we get some inspiration. Sometimes hearing the philosophy or reading or chanting or just being with spiritually minded people. So whatever that little experience is, one of the lessons of this is we are not different than Narada Muni. Narada, he appeared. Narada's story was a little more intense, and he appeared in his heart, and then he spoke to him. But he's speaking to us too. And he's giving his little glimpses here or there. And just like Narada, sometimes Krishna says, you may not really deserve this, but I'm going to give you a little glimpse. But now it's up to you to be determined that you want to go deeper. And our Vaishnava philosophy teaches us that the nature of the soul with Krishna is that we've made a choice to come into this material realm, this world of material bodies and time and birth and death and all the concomitant factors, some happiness, some distress. We made a choice to come here, and it's our choice if we want to get out. That's the core Vaishnava philosophy. And the whole time it's described in the Upanishads and elsewhere, Bhagavad Gita, that God's actually in our heart. Like this explained, the soul's in the heart. We're the soul in the heart. We're not just the brain. We have a brain, but we're not the brain, and we're not the blood, and we're not the bones. We're the consciousness within the heart. And Krishna's there too. And his purpose of being there is he's watching us to see what our desires are. Isha Upanishad explains he is the self-sufficient philosopher who's been satisfying everyone's desire from time immemorial. So whatever our desires are, he helps satisfy those desires. But what he's really interested in is waiting for us to turn our attention towards him. And when we do so, he's anxious to reciprocate with us. It's interesting sitting in front of a crowd of people because it just reminds me how easy it is to get distracted in the material world, isn't it? You just come up and try to open one. It's funny. You open one window, 80% of the eyes were watching. So it's a nice example because, we walk out of the door of the temple thinking, yeah, I want to kind of remember God. And then, whoo, the ocean of material variety comes upon us. Oh my gosh, I forgot I got this project I got to do, and there's that, for the younger ones among us, there's that cute girl, I haven't talked to her in a while, or there's that cute guy, or there's that man that I can make a business relation, make some money with him, I forgot it. And oh my gosh, somebody ran into my car. Look at that. There's a big dent in my car. This is terrible. I'm never going to the temple again. I get my car, etc. So many distractions come. That's why we have to be determined. So how do we be determined? A couple things. A lot of ideas. The first thing is associate with spiritually minded people. Come here, listen to lectures about spiritual topics. Associate with spiritually minded people. Cultivate. Take some time. Read the Vaishnava literatures. Read Prabhu's books, etc. And cultivate some knowledge. It helps us see things more as they are. Just like we go to high school or college or advanced studies, so we can see things as they are, to advance ourselves in life. So the same way, cultivating knowledge, we can advance ourselves spiritually. So association helps us become determined. Sometimes we don't feel so strong. Just like they say, so much emphasize important, the need for people to exercise. What's the best way to make sure you're going to exercise? Anybody know? They've done studies on it. I read some things. What's the best way? Join a club. Okay, that helps. Friend. Yeah? If you have a partner, every Monday morning at 6 o'clock we're going to run together. Right? So at 5:45 Monday morning, your mind goes, not today. I don't think so. I can do it tomorrow, right? But if you go, no, my friend's there, isn't it? I made a promise. Then you go, because he or she is there. And the same way next week when he goes, I got a headache, I don't feel like it. No, I have to go, my friend's there. So the same way in association, it helps us be determined. Helps us be determined. So association, knowledge, and prayer. That we recite many prayers, Vedic mantras, different quotations and different teachers, but we also should offer our own prayers. The deity is there. Krishna comes in form that we are able to see him. He's also there in our heart, even when we're outside the temple. So we can pray to Krishna. We should pray to Krishna to help us. Please help me understand you. Help me understand who I am. Help me learn how to live in this world in such a way that I'm not contributing to the pain, but I can help relieve the pain. Help me live in the world in such a way that I'm not causing more distress or more ignorance, but I'm helping others advance. And all of us, we're actually very fortunate. We'll speak about Naperville here for just a minute, and we'll quit. We have this nice community, so many spiritually minded people. The Lord has come in his deity form, wonderful prasadam. I walked up and down the stairs a few times today. There was at least a half a dozen people there all day long, cutting and chopping and cooking, just so that all of you can have wonderful spiritually surcharged food offered to the Lord. So that's the benefit of community. Not everybody has that opportunity. We have Prabhupada's books. Encourage everyone, if you don't have a copy of Bhagavad Gita as it is, take advantage. If you haven't read the biography, the amazing history of Srila Prabhupada and his coming to America and all of the, like Narada, all of the obstacles he overcame and how Krishna helped him, was with him at every moment, and everything he did and sacrificed to help us. These are all very, very inspiring things. So take advantage of those. And I'll end with this. You've all had some glimpse, or maybe a lot. Probably a lot of you here have had more than I have. But we all get some little glimpse now and then, just like Narada did. That actually, I remember I was on the phone with a friend a little while ago, and I told him, so much of my conviction in Krishna consciousness is kind of intellectual one. That doesn't make sense, this makes sense, etc. But I was telling him, from time to time we get these insights that actually it's real. It's not just a theory. It's not just an alternative philosophy. It's a reality that we can experience. And we get those little glimpses because Krishna's then testing us. He's actually testing us. It's like, okay, here's a little glimpse. Here's some conviction. Here's some higher taste. Now, your choice. You want me or want material life? And then we have to make the choice. And of course, it's not just a one-time, in or out, black or white, lights on, lights off kind of choice. But to make the choice to continue down the path, to make the choice to be determined, to continue to chant, to continue to associate with spiritually minded people. And sometimes we make the wrong choice, and that's okay. He's still there. He gives us more choices. But just like to reaffirm for all of you, those glimpses you get, you're not alone. It's not a figment of your imagination. Krishna's there, spiritual life is there, eternal life is there, and it's there for the taking if we just only want it. And the problem is it's not the only thing we want. But that's okay. If we stay in contact with Krishna, gradually that desire manifests more and more and more. Whatever material distractions and problems and difficulties and stress goes down more and more, and the path becomes clearer and clearer and clearer. And then just like Narada, one day Krishna will speak to us and he'll show himself to us. And as we've seen there's a beautiful picture by B.J. Sharma, one of his most famous ones, Krishna welcoming the soul back to the spiritual world where he's there embracing. So that's that's the reality. We just have to continue. So I'll stop. There's a few minutes left if there's some questions or comments. Anybody might have? We have a microphone here. Can be on any topic other than what ingredients are in the feast, because I didn't look that close when I walked through the kitchen. I can't help you with that. Is there kirtan next, or what do we do? Is it feast next? Kirtan. Okay. So what is it? Kirtan next. 6:30 is. Oh, first feast. Okay. Well, then I can say you have to ask a couple questions. I'm not going to release everybody, go downstairs. I wouldn't do that, but any questions? Yes, Prabhu. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Don't make it too difficult. If it's too difficult, I have to take too long to answer, and everybody will be very mad with both of us.
Sure. Prabhu, the two important points you mentioned from today's determination, I was also thinking if one of the points of takeaway from this pastime is the sense of doership as well. Like Narada Muni initially, Krishna showed himself by causeless mercy, but Narada Muni later was trying to have that same vision. So I was thinking if it is something related to the sense of doership as well, can you comment on that? Prabhu?
Is the word, I'm missing the word, is it worship you said, or devotion?
Doership.
To worship.
No, doership.
Doership. Is that an English word? Doership. It's a nice word, I like that, but I don't know. Forgive me for not recognizing it first. In other words, he was understanding he wasn't the doer, he was dependent on Krishna. Okay. It's interesting because there's two sides. If you notice, he was thinking he was the doer, right? And then Krishna showed himself, but then he showed him when then he disappeared. And he tried to do it again, right? So Nike would not succeed in this bhakti process. You don't just do it. You do it, but then Krishna reciprocates. So both are there. So this causeless mercy, in other words, he reveals himself. He gives us some experience. He gives us some conviction. That's his kindness. We don't cause that. We can't force that. But after that, and thanks, that's a very important point. Thanks for drawing attention to that. We have to reciprocate. When we reciprocate, then he may choose to reciprocate or he may not. It's on his own time schedule. But we know by his nature, and that was the first point, he is our best friend. He will reciprocate. But he's also testing to see, are we serious? Do we really want it? It's like if you want to try out for the football team or something. The coach says, yeah, you can try out. Just go run, or go run 8 miles and come back and see me. Like, well, I want to be in the football team when I don't want to run 8 miles. Okay, no problem. You don't have to. So Krishna's like, okay, well, I'm here. You just have to chant a little bit, Make sure you're eating pure things only and associate with spiritually minded people. And I don't want to do that. Okay. I'll see you next lifetime. Or maybe next time around 8,400,000 species. That's the scary part. That's the scary part. But even that's an instant in comparison to eternity. So the idea is it has to be both. He gives us his causeless mercy. We can't force that. Yet we also have to reciprocate. Isn't it? He told Arjuna, just surrender to me and I'll protect you. Right? So we also have to endeavor, but leave the results up to him. Is that okay? Thank you. It was a very nice class.
Thank you.
Question. Very nice question. Anybody else? Maybe from the ladies' side? No pressure, just wondering. There's at least 4 or 5 of the young devotees that were maybe more that were here last night for the meeting, and they came back today for the Sunday feast, which means one of 2 things. Because I spoke last night too. It means either they thought whatever I said was useful, or they know it's a really good feast downstairs. I'm not sure which. Maybe one more question, then we'll break. Anybody? Is that a hand there? Well, it's never fair when somebody says, she's got a question. Nothing else? Okay. I guess you all must have heard it must be a really good feast. Okay. So some last announcements or? Okay. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Hare Krishna. Prabhu wanted to take a moment to express our heartfelt gratitude and thankfulness for your presence here, your association, your guidance, and I do not know what else to say, but you have been such an inspiration for us, and I'm sure all the congregation feels the same way. And we are really, really blessed by their Lordship, Sri Sri Radha Madhava, that you are here with us to take care of all our needs. Seriously, I mean it. And thank you so very, very much. Please give an appreciation applause. So today's Sunday feast is sponsored by about 3 families. First, Ripujit and Archana Sharma Mataji, they are seeking Krishna and devotees' blessings for their son Rishabh, who graduated from college. Congratulations, Rishabh. Is he here? Rishabh is here? Can you show your hand? Congratulations. What did you graduate from? What is your degree? Engineering? Huh? Computer engineering. Wonderful. And there is her son Vikas, who is going to college. Where is Vikas? Wish you all the best. Haribo. And also I just met Archana Sharma Mataji. She runs a children's enrichment center called STEM Shala, and she has been running this. They completed 1 year, and she is seeking all the devotees' blessings for this and this effort that she has put forward. We are all very thankful to you to have the whole family here today, and we will chant together for your continuous progress in your spiritual life and success in all the endeavors that you are undertaking, and may Krishna keep you in his service always. You have given the prasadam? Yes. And we have Kanchan Sharma seeking Krishna and devotees' blessings on the occasion of Guru Purnima. Are they here? Kanchan Sharma? No?
Thank you anyway.
Thank you so very, very, very much. Kishore Salavnik seeking blessings for their son Neeraj's birthday, and they are also celebrating Guru Purnima. Are they here? Thank you so very much. Please give them. Okay. Thank you so much. So for the spiritual well-being, one more family, Rakesh and Anjali Malhotra, they are also seeking the blessings of the devotees. Are they here? Right here. Thank you so very much, Rakesh Prabhu. Also, there is a sad news that Vrindavan Prabhu's grandmother passed away, and they are seeking prayers from all the devotees for the onward journey of the spirit soul. And on behalf of all these families, let us all pray to their Lordship, Sri Sri Radha Madhava, for everybody's spiritual well-being. And please chant after me. Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna,
Krishna Krishna,
Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So prasadam is, on behalf of all these families, prasadam is served downstairs. We are very grateful for your support for distributing prasadam for various occasions on Sundays and other festival days. Abhay Prabhu is overseeing this operation, and so anybody who would like to sponsor Sunday Feast in coming weeks, you can contact him. Before the feast, I think it looks like 2 people are standing next to me, so I better give the mic. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. I guess by now, it's 4 weeks since we started the construction, and it seems you all are adjusting to the bad parking, the poor infrastructure, and so forth, right? As you know, our goal is to have this done as quickly as possible, and by Janmashtami, we want to have this parking facility ready. By the way, this is possible only because your support. This is the people in this room. Many of you have come forward, have done all the sacrifices needed to make this happen. So congratulations to you, first of all, that you see this effort, and our contractor, our builder is working day and night and ensuring that this is going to get ready. But now at the same time, it is a time of festivals in ISKCON, and Janmashtami is on the corner, it's just 4 weeks away, and we have a grand plan for Janmashtami. And if I give to Sumangla Mataji, she will say grand plan and grand plan. So we have big plan, honestly. And the goal is that this Janmashtami eventually will become our ISKCON's Naperville's marquee event. The people should say, if they are speaking Hindi, then say ISKCON ki Janmashtami, right? If we want to go to Janmashtami for ISKCON. And there is no other than better person than Sumangla Mataji to excite you about what she is doing.
Hare Krishna, everybody. The Janmashtami, you know, it's going to be celebrated coming soon. Lot of stuff to talk about, but first I would like to launch the festival flyer. I would like to request this guy Anuttama Prabhu to launch the flyer. Isn't the flyer looks beautiful with Radha Shamasundar on the flyer? I love it. Yeah, it looks divine flyer. And the great work was done by Pratul Prabhu's team who is here. And the Mataji who did this great artwork is Rachna Mataji. Please give them a big Haribol 3 times. Now they did their part, you know, putting up this beautiful flyer. Now we need all your help. Now the help is, we need to spread this word. The Janmashtami festival, as Prabhuji said, ISKCON has that brand name Janmashtami. You know, it's not that, you know, everybody, when they come into the temple on Janmashtami day, we would like to give them a memorable visit. Such a way they come every year looking at the Lordship. The beautiful Lordships will be on the altar. Radha Shamasundar will be on the altar. They will be on the altar only once in a year, 3 times, 3 days. So we would like to invite the whole community to come and take darshan. And the help we need is, these are the flyers that are outside. We would like to request all the devotees, please take this and personally invite your friends and families. It's a great help, and the beautiful flyer is this side, but please take a minute to turn around and see what are all the activities going on. This year, we are doing a special thing. It's we are doing a 2-day event, because Monday it's a long weekend, but the next day being the Tuesday being the work day. Based on all your inputs, we are celebrating 2 days. That is September 2nd. We have the activities. September 2nd. We are starting from 4 o'clock until 9 o'clock. All these cultural programs will be there. Lot of cultural programs and lot of attractions for the kids, and a lot of cultural programs, like all the program details are here. And we are also celebrating on 3rd, September 3rd. That's going to be from 4 p.m. till midnight. So you can come even when you are coming from work. Please come, and it's a holiday, but still wherever you are, come for midnight also. Thank you so much. I would like to hand over to Shyam Prabhu, who's giving more details on that. Thank you.
What details you want me to give? All right.
When they come, what do they want to do?
Right. So what she wants me to do is, for this kind of event, as you know, we need two people, two things. One, we need people, we need resource. There are a lot of services opportunities are needed, and I don't want you to raise your hands. I just want you to just come forward and sign up for smallest service that you think you can do it. You can do either help in parking, cleaning, distribution of pamphlet, raising some funds, and many more, right? So this is a room of people here. We need your help. Please come forward and make this event successful. At the same time, as many of you know that every Janmashtami event, we make some kind of fundraising as well. Because temple runs with the devotees, but then we have to pay electricity and water, gas, everything. So we need funds, we need money, and need your help. So every year what we do, we have colors program, and this year we are trying to do a little bit special. So we have a silver colors that's we are launching again today. This is coming from all the way from Mumbai, and our goal is to have 100 of these colors being sponsored, and the opportunity will be you take these colors, and there will be colors Abhishekam, and you go and offer with your family, right? So there are 2 days, both second and third, right? Both days we will provide this facility depending upon your time and opportunity. But here's the deal: we know that every one of you. You don't say that every time you are coming to me. I know you do so much. You do so much. Every congregation member has given so much of support, and that's why we are. So for that reason, this colors, the price, we are charging about $500, $501 for each one, and I think every year whenever we did, it was kind of very good, demand. So for today, and only for today, for this group of people, what we are doing, we want to make price less. We want to make 20% less, and we want to make it $400. You may ask me, what business are you talking about? We came for a spiritual devotion, yeah, but we have to pay about $10,000 for our colors sponsors. The manufacturer we have to pay, so we need that money as soon as possible. So for today and for today only, and we want to make this colors $500 to $400, and I want every one of you, not just optional, please come forward. Stoka Krishna Prabhu is there. Our goal is that next 30 days, every day we want to sell 3 of them, and we want to ensure that we have right amount of colors. By the way, we want to send 99 of them. One we want to keep if somebody can't afford. So we want to do on their name that color Abhishekam. So I need your help. Please, I don't want you to raise your hand, but please come forward. Again, it's not, we'll do it tomorrow in 500. It's just today. Today we want to do it 400. Already 5 people has 5. Okay, so 5 people already signed up, and I really want you to take advantage of it. Please come forward. It's my request, begging, service, whatever you can think of, but I need your help. So please come forward. Again, for services opportunity for Janmashtami, I think Sanjay Patel Prabhu or somebody is there. Please let us know however you want to help. We'll more than happy to engage. Likewise, there are other people in your community, in your neighborhood, who can help us. Please come forward. Anything else?
As Prabhuji said, it's not a sale. It is to bring the colors here. We need to pay the vendor. So that's why we are putting this, this pure silver. Pure silver. Okay. Yeah, but it's a pure silver kalash. We'll have the kalash display next week sometime.
Alright. So thank you. Please take the darshan.
Prasadam served downstairs. Thank you everyone. Thank you everyone.